Hi, Kim. So, you have an unusual situation. It's one of my specialties. When you're working with a child, and I actually have a child here now with it, and it's really got my interest going. Very similar to what you're going through here, but she had low iron levels, and irons had to be adjusted. What a lot of people don't understand is, oops, I just kicked my light. What a lot of people don't understand when they're working with variations of, I wouldn't say fluid dynamics, but yes, because it goes into the bloodstream. We're not meant to have 300 sugars. It's too heavy. We're not meant to have changes in our levels, right? Iron, copper are very heavy metals, and when they're too much or unregulated, or the body can't regulate these things, right, it's putting all of its efforts into it. Now, in my son's case, I had, because again, my son's MRI is fine, all that sort of stuff, but his was infection. He had Haemophilus influenza staph. When the body has to regulate weights, it's just not meant to do that. And so when it does so, the body becomes very heavy. So a lot of people look at what's going on with your son and stuff as a weakness. But when there's two things that's going on, and that happens with the weights. First of all, the body moves slower. And this is what I was trying to explain with the parents this week, or teach them. Not that they don't get it, but I mean, I'm just explaining it. But when I do something really slow, I'm an adult, and I can even go pretty far off balance and maintain balance, because my balance is more than my strength, right? And this is one of the biggest things that people don't understand about development. So I'm sure all his life you've been told, if he just gets a little bit stronger, you're never strong enough to lift that kind of weight. And I'm telling you, I'll win the Nobel Prize if I can prove what that means. So I get it that a child, let's say 20 pounds, another child 20 pounds. Well, one 20-pound child is, let's say, running down the street, and the other one can't hardly move, right? But first of all, I'm not saying it's a cognitive slow, it's a movement slow. And so the way he even transfers over, yes, I can go after that pubic bone strike, but again, I need to do I need to do a lot of courses, but a course on this. This is where my touch comes from, because my son's infection was just like, he wasn't like low tone. He was just heavy. His mucus wasn't going at the right rate. He's just was there. And one of my gravitational theories is when the mass supersedes the might, and I'm talking about a pair of glasses. I can't go 5 years and hold my glasses up like this. At some point, my might, the mass of these glasses, just this little bit, will supersede my might. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's a rocket taking on, anything that's opposing gravity at some point. So when you have the fluid dynamic changes, and in your case, I believe it's the copper doing this, the influx of copper, he got hit with a weight variation, right, of too much copper or too little copper, and trying to produce that. That produces a heaviness to the system. And so, and that's what he's suffering from. That's why, they're blaming it on the genetics, which again, the blame is there because that's why it's happening. But the movement dynamics of this is we have to, first of all, give him better balance. That has to be your number one. And then two, going into, again, pubic bone strike. Again, that's in the support group. Really, you need the support group for him, because I want you to go through everything, because he's got to have better balance and tummy time. And you might say, Michelle, he's 2.5, he's not going to do tummy time. You can do some of the videos when he's sleeping. We've got to get him, his system is so heavy for him to lift up. And again, this is where it's, when I lighten up a system, there's still 20 pounds. Do you know what I mean? But there's a difference between, and you know what it's like. I equate it to like lifting 5 pounds of sugar and 5 pounds of wheat. They're both 5 pounds, but the sugar always seems heavier because the sugar's moving, right? Where the wheat just wants to stay here, or the flour, whereas the sugar is, you know what I mean? Like, and so just again, the changes in just minute issues of balance in your hands and fingers and extremities is going to make the sugar appear to seem heavier. Or as I joke around with my son, when he'd have a meltdown, it was like picking up a wet bag of dog food from all different directions. I still couldn't just scoop him up. And again, I'm saying this about my son, not about your son, just as an example. So when you're looking at, again, it's the ATP7A, and it's a rare variance, and I get it, but what needs to be really for him is we have to increase his speed, and we have to increase his balance. It's something that I need to teach and show how to do, but again, can be done through a lot of the support courses. The pubic bone strikes now. Again, that's why it's not that he couldn't bear weight on the feet. That's not where standing comes from. It comes from his pelvis. He couldn't bear to do it. Now, the reason why I'm asking about the ophthalmologist, again, that delay or the slowness is also in his vision. I mean, he's not getting the, oh, what's over there, mom? That kind of thing, that quickness. One of the things you're going to ask for when you're going for the ophthalmologist, not only for the retinoscopy, but I want his eyes checked for contractions. When the light hits, right? I have a feeling like he's just slower, and it might be uneven. And so this is where you're getting that kind of glassy-eyed look with him doing something, and also it slows down his momentum and his speed and his movements. I can't stress enough, this is not a cognitive slow, this is a system slow. And I really believe it's just due to the metal variations that he's getting, and it's just making the system too heavy at times. And when a system gets hit with the copper, again, and you might say, hey, Michelle, it's nothing. We weren't meant, this is not how, the human body is very, like, I can change the temperature in here 5 degrees and someone's grabbing a sweater or they're taking off a sweat. You know what I mean? We're much more sensitive than people believe, especially when you're in the development stage. Now, me, if I have a sugar surge, I probably wouldn't even notice. What I do notice, I don't get stressed out or upset too often. One of the reasons why I don't like to, I run like 90/60 on my blood pressure. I'm like here, despite all of this. And when I was giving birth to a baby, I was 90/60. And he's like, you need a sign on you that says I'm not dead. And, but when my blood pressure does go up, maybe to like the 140s or 50s, if I really get upset and I'm feeling that, first of all, I like start shivering because my, the cold goes through and I'm like, how do people live like this? Like, I just kicked my light again. I'm very sensitive to that. So, I avoid certain either social situations or whatever, because I don't know how people live with blood pressure like that. Like it just takes me out. But again, that all depends on, some people need 1 Tylenol versus 2 Tylenols, whatever, their medical sensitivity. We have these sensitivities, but again, I'm talking about the weight of the copper, I believe, has made him more delayed than the actual what we're looking for as a cognitive response. So I hope that wasn't long-winded, but this is where, again, when he gets a copper surge, I'm sure you're seeing more and he's got to like get it back, and again, that struggle, almost like when you're coming out of anesthesia and trying to get out of bed. You know what I mean? I get it, you might be a world-class athlete, but during that window of a medication hit, you're just slow. And that's where he's getting hit, and that's what's really affecting his development, and that's what you have to work on. It is more advanced, but again, I would be definitely in the support group, getting the help through more of his foundations to get him better balance, because now that he's 2.5, he can increase his balance capabilities. And lessen the severity of the load of the copper. But you're going to have to come up with a program that when he does have a surge, and that's what I don't know enough about him, if it does this daily basis or what, and how to counter around it, because that's why he doesn't have enough strength. It's a very unusual case. I don't see it too often, but I'm very familiar with it. Like I said, I'm working with it right now, but with iron, not copper. And just trying to speed her up, in a sense, is my first objective, and give her better balance, and go from there. But already, like the first hour, she's already sitting up. You know what I mean? Like, so again, she just folds when she's wiped. And again, that's that heaviness in her system that she got hit with. I see it with chemo. I see this with diabetes. Those are like neuropathies that happen. Well, they're man-made, you know what I mean? They're not something neurological. It's a man-made thing, but it shuts the brain off from the system with the surge. And that's another thing I'd have to research, is the copper molecule bigger than the red blood cell, and then that surge also would throw it off. I hope this helps, but that's the conversation. But honestly, I can't believe nobody's asked you, because it affects the fine capillaries. I'd definitely be going at the ophthalmologist tomorrow. You need it for structure. You need it for delayed maturation, meaning that the iris response. Do it before dilation, and then they need to check for acuity for if he just needs help with vision. Thanks.